What's up, guys? Round 5 is over. 3.5 hour game. I'm quite tired. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking that chess is sad because I lost. Well, no, that's not the reason chess is sad. There are actually two reasons why I said that, and because of two things that happened in the game, which I will show you when we get to that point. So let's go ahead and jump in. I was black, playing against 2000 rated player. I'm not going to try to pronounce his name because you guys have heard me try to pronounce names and I don't do it very well. So let's just get into the game. So G3 is one of those moves where it's like, okay, you're not really sure what they're going to do. I mean, you know, they're going to feed and kettle the bishop, right? But other than that, you're like, they could play D4, they could play C4, they could play like a King's Indian with like D3. You don't really know. So I decided, let's just go ahead and play E5. And because that kind of takes away D4 now. And so I figured maybe D3, King's Indian, or C4. Okay, and this is kind of like playing against a Sicilian, except you're down a move, which is significant. I mean, Sicilian is good for black, and this is like a version where, you know, they get an extra move. So I decided to go for this system, and this is kind of what's called the Grand Prix attack when you're playing it with white. And the point is, you basically are going to try to launch an attack on the king side by pushing F4 at some point. Now, I wasn't sure about this, and this is something that I still need to go and kind of look up, but like, I'm not sure if this is actually a good plan as black, because a lot of times in those aggressive openings, you know, being behind a tempo could be significant, right? You're just down a move. So I wasn't sure about that. And like, here's a good example too. Because I was down a move, now this guy could play the knight here and defend this, where a lot of times in the other system when you're white, you can take that knight before they're able to defend it and you can mess up the pawn structure. I couldn't do that now because I was down that tempo. So I was like, you know what, I'm not going to mess around. I'm just going to take it anyway and just go into this system because I knew kind of the basic idea and I just wanted to get past the opening phase and like into the game. So D4. I think this is a good move. He's trying to just kind of open up, and if I take it, well, then it lets out this bishop, and then this bishop becomes very strong. So I didn't want to take it. I thought about pushing by. The problem with pushing by, though, is that, remember I said I wanted to attack the king with this? It's going to be really hard for me to play this now without the pawn supporting, right? So even though it kind of blocks up the bishop, I'm like, I don't know. He's still going to be able to play F3 if he wants and undermine the pawn. So I decided to just play Queen E8. This is a very typical move in these Grand Prix systems, and the point is, you're just sliding the queen over here so it can come out this diagonal. You want to use it to attack the king, and from here, it can't really go anywhere that you want it to go to. Over here, you can swing here eventually. Now, this is a little bit annoying because his queen is blocking that square. A lot of times, the knight would still be on, like if you're playing this as white, the knight would still be on here, and maybe the pawn would have recaptured. And so this is like a much more easy to play move. Now it's kind of tricky for me. So that was one thing that was really kind of bothering me. But he played Rook B1. Now, Rook B1, as soon as I saw it, I felt like, okay, now maybe is my moment to do something because I wanted to open up this diagonal, right? I wanted to take advantage, potentially take advantage of the fact that the rook is there. And if I just sit around and do nothing, like he's going to play B4, B5, and the queenside attack is coming pretty quickly. So I'm like, okay, let's just go. Let's play F4. This is usually a pawn sacrifice in these systems where you don't really expect to hold on to the pawn, right? And so, like, for example, if he would have taken me, I wasn't just going to take back and do this. I had some other things in mind. So, for example, well, he played D5, but like, let's just say he did take. What was I going to do? I think I was going to just take this way and leave this because what I'm trying to do is not open up this bishop, right? Like, I don't want to let that bishop into the game. And so I want to not do that. And really, let me just back up for a second. Really, the important thing about this pawn has nothing to do with the pawn. It has to do with the fact that you open up this diagonal for your bishop and you open up this file for your rook. Okay, like that's the important thing. So that's why I said, like, it doesn't even matter if you lose the pawn. That's not the point. The point is you want to get the bishop and the rook into the game. Okay, so anyway, he plays D5. And I found a really cool move here, F3. And the point is, first of all, if the queen takes, I have a really nice move. I'll let you, if you want to take a second, pause the video. What can black play here to just win the game? Well, if you said bishop to G4, you are correct. That's actually a queen trap. The queen has nowhere to go. Everything is covered. And yeah, that would have been an unfortunate move. So I knew he couldn't do that, so had to take with the bishop, which is what he played. And then I played e4. And my point here is that I'm letting this knight get captured, because if this happens, now I'm taking the bishop, and this is a fantastic trade for me, this bishop for this knight, right? Like, look at this king. Look at this square right here. See that? I have a bishop that I can use. I have my queen that I can use. Really bad news for white. Like, even if there's some way to hold on and not get checkmated, this is just not a good position. So that was the idea, that my knight's not actually under attack. Bishop has to move somewhere, or the other move, and this is what he played, he can capture with the knight. And man, I thought a long time here, because I had two moves. I can just take the knight, or I can play here. And here's the thing. If I take the knight, he has to take here, because I just took a piece, so the only move is to take this. And then I was going to take back, and I get this position, he's going to go back to bishop g2. And I wasn't sure if I liked this better, or if I liked the position that I went within the game. This looks pretty good, and Engine says it's slightly better for white, but, you know, queen g6 can happen, the bishop can probably come in at some point, f5, maybe g4. I have some open files. Like, this is kind of the position that I wanted to get. But going back to the game, this also got me into a decent position, takes, where I'm like, okay, very similar, but now my rook is on f6 already, and I thought maybe I can come over here. So I ended up going with this one. Turns out that the other way was a little better according to the engine, but I didn't know that at the time, obviously. All right, so he goes bishop g2, and now let me just check. I think I spent like 20 minutes on this move. Let's see. Bishop g2. Yes, I spent 20 minutes of my life thinking about this position. And this is, well, I'll tell you that in just a second. So let me ask you this. What do you think I played? What do you think I played in this position? If you want to pause and try to find a cool looking move, that'll be my hint. All right, well, if you paused and came up with the move that I played in this position was bishop to h3. And the engine actually likes this move. It's not the top engine move. I'll show you the top engine move in just a second. But bishop h3. The point, first of all, obviously, there's nothing defending the bishop, right? So it's a free bishop. The point is that if he takes it, it opens up the f3 square for my knight. Now I can play knight to f3 check. And the king has to move. The queen doesn't want to take because it's defended, of course. And regardless of where the king moves, I have a couple good options. So, and there were actually two different options, but here's the deal. If the king goes to g2, I'm going to swing my queen to e4, and I'm creating a discovered attack and attacking the rook over on b1, which is undefended. So white has a really rough time here, right? Because you have to be really careful what you play, because this discovered check could, you know, go to a lot of different places and do some nasty stuff. So, like, for example, bishop d2, I can just take it with check, right? So he doesn't want to do that. You know, you have to save the rook, otherwise I'm just going to take the rook. So, like, if rook a1, then I can just probably do something like this, bring this other rook over. And I still have this discovered attack. So white has to be super, super careful. The extra bishop is not really doing a lot. This isn't doing anything. This isn't doing anything. So even though I'm down a piece, got a lot of compensation. All right. So that was the idea on king to g2. Now the other option is king to h1. And here, queen e4 is not very good, because now there's bishop g2, and it just kind of pins my knight and takes away all my counterplay, right? But I found this move instead, queen to h5, and I'm threatening to take the bishop. And if the bishop tries to retreat, that's just checkmate on h2, right? So what does white have to do? Well, king g2, only move to defend the bishop. And now I almost had a really nice checkmate. I say almost because it's not checkmate, but I was thinking about going here, check, takes, rook comes over, and if the king goes back, checkmate. Except it's not checkmate because nothing's protecting the knight, right? He just takes it, but almost a cool checkmate. But I saw that. Okay, so I wasn't going to just give up my queen. But my plan here was to just bring this rook over. And, you know, now that checkmate actually is a threat, because takes, and then the, actually, I don't know if it's, let's just say that, we'll say bishop d2. Let's see if it's, is it a checkmate threat? Takes, check. Here, this is mate. So the king has to come up. Yeah, it's mate. It's mate in 4. Knight e5. King here. Rook takes h2. Wow, and you're mating with the pawn. That's amazing. I didn't actually see all the way through that, but I figured it would probably be mate. And so that was kind of my idea of going with this idea. Okay, so that, again, let's just to recap here, because that was kind of a lot. The point from sacking the bishop was that it opens up the square, my knight comes in. If king g2, then queen e4 creates all kinds of problems there. And if king h1, queen h5 forces king g2, and then the rook comes over, and this is really, really nasty for white. Okay, here's why chess is sad. I spent 20 minutes of like intense thinking to play this move. It showed you all the variations and things that I was thinking through, and it's a lot harder over the board to, to play a move like this. It's easy to look at it afterward and, oh yeah, bishop h3, but I was like, I'm giving up a bishop, and I'm giving up the bishop that I would normally want to use to control and attack these light squares, right? So very tough decision, but I did it, and he goes f4, and I'm like, chess is sad. I mean, all that thought, all those beautiful like checkmates and different things, and then there is this move. Like, this is a legit move. And yeah, now I just have to take the bishop. He takes me, and it's just not as awesome as it was before. So that's one reason why chess is sad. All right. So here, if you want to pause the video again, what do you think I played for black? And this was kind of a nice move as well. All right, well, the move I played was not saving the knight, but actually making a counterattack, queen to g6. And the point is that if he takes the knight, well, I'm going to throw in this trade, and then I'm going to take this rook. And so I end up winning the exchange. I lose a knight, but I get a rook. And even if he tries this move to kind of get sneaky here, I can just play rook f8, and I'm good. So that was the idea if he takes the knight. And then, of course, has to deal with the threat on the rook, or I'm just going to take the rook. So bishop d2. And so I was kind of proud of this move. Oh, I should mention, the other thing about this move is it allows me to put my queen on this really nice square on e4, which I couldn't get to from back here, right? But that's really where my queen wants to be, because it's controlling like everything on the board. So, okay, queen there, queen e4. King goes back, and only real move that I had here was to just take the pawn with my knight. I mean, now my knight actually is being attacked, so I took this. And then b3. Okay. So here I was like, well, there's not a whole lot to do. I can go back to b6, and we're going to get this kind of endgame probably. Queen f3 takes, takes. And then after e4, I felt like this is just really even. If anything, maybe white has a slight advantage because of the bishop. And I'm like, I don't think I'm going to be winning this game, so I don't like that. And the only other thing that I saw was this line. So knight takes e3. It's a fork. It's also threatening checkmate. So there's not a lot of moves white has. Has to play queen e2. Covers checkmate. Gets out of the fork. Creates a pin on the knight. So I can't like take the rook because my queen's hanging. Okay. So there's two moves here. And if you want to pause and think, what do you think I played here? This one's kind of tricky to see. But yeah, I'll give you guys a second. Go ahead and pause if you want and try to figure out the best move for black. All right, well, first of all, if you try to just kind of defend with your rook, it just doesn't end well because the rook comes over. It's still pinned. It still can't move, and you're just losing. You can't defend anymore because of that annoying pawn. So that's why that doesn't work. So the only move that you could really play here as black was knight takes f1. And it has to do with the fact that even though you lose your queen, you then take the bishop, creating the fork, and you're going to actually get the rook as well. He played queen d3. I captured. And now you end up with this position where all the pawns are equal. I have two rooks and he has a queen. Okay. Now, two rooks versus a queen, I think a lot of times it's going to be a draw. But there's a lot of other factors that you have to consider, such as king safety, and position of the pawns and that kind of thing. So pawns, you know, it's pretty even. Like, there's not really that many good targets for me. There's not really that many good targets for him. King safety, my king is probably a little bit safer, although you're going to see what happened in the game. So, and by the way, I should mention at this point in the game, I'm starting to get low on time. So, because I was thinking a lot earlier now, and this guy, by the way, this guy was like moving without even thinking on pretty much every move. Okay, so we did this exchange. Queen takes b1. Yeah, I had 15 minutes left, and we're on move 24. Okay, 15 minutes, and I have to play like 15 more moves, so it's not a lot of time. So I played rook e8. I knew that I needed to get control of the open file right away, because if he gets control of it, then it's kind of annoying. I have to figure out how to connect my rooks and then get control. So I'm like, let's go ahead and do that right away. He attacks my pawn. I played rook f7 to defend it. King g2. Double up the rooks on the open file, and he plays king h3. And at this point, I'm like, okay, of course I should be able to get a draw, because all I have to do is like put my pawns like this, you know, leave my rooks sit here and just move my king back and forth if I want. And I mean, what's white going to do, right? White can't do anything. So I'm like, okay, so I have a draw. And then I started to think, like, can I win? Can I somehow win? And what I was thinking was, you know, if let's just say hypothetically, I had like 4 moves for free. I could go 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 moves, and then take this pawn, that's checkmate. Okay, so if I could like get both rooks back here, my pawn on h5 controlling this, capture the pawn, that would be checkmate. Okay, cool. The problem is, how am I going to do that? Well, I can definitely bring one rook down there at some point, but not right now, because this pawn is hanging. So the first step is to figure out, okay, how can I get like a rook here and a rook here, right? So that I have one rook down there, one rook defending this pawn. Because if I let him take this pawn, then I'm in trouble. Then all my pawns are probably going to fall. So I'm thinking about that, but I'm also thinking, like, I only have 15 minutes. I don't have a ton of time. Let me try to get to move forward, to get to time control, and then I'll figure this out. So I played g6. I played b6. He was attacking the pawn over here. I played king f7, and I'm just trying to kind of like make some moves right now. So that's why I played a6, then a5. I wanted to get to that 40 moves, so I got my extra time. Okay, so we played a bunch of moves. I was trying to play relatively safe moves. Then I came up with this idea, and this is kind of a subtle thing. So this rook is doing a great job defending my pawn. I want it there. This rook is not good. I don't want it back here. I want it like over here, right? Doing something more active. So how do I do that? Well, I slide this one over, because that's the one that I need to keep on this rank to defend this pawn. And now it opens up so that this guy can go do something, okay? So queen c4, rook c3, he goes here. I went there. Again, I'm just trying to make time control at this point, so I'm kind of making a bunch of moves. And I played h5. And here's the thing. I didn't think, when I played h5, I did not think that his king would be able to come up here like this, because I thought if he does that, it's probably going to end in a checkmate for him. So that's why I played h5. Now, as soon as I played h5, the computer says my winning chances disappeared. And they were very small to begin with, okay, winning chances. But as soon as I played h5, didn't like it. Now, that being said, I want to show you something else. Something else about chess that makes me sad. Queen here. Okay. Okay, so we did a bunch of moves here. And now I decided to do a little trap, or I thought I was setting a trap. All right, so here's the plan. His king's going to come in. I saw this. He's going for this pawn. So what am I going to do? I can't really defend it any good ways. I guess I can go here, but why did I not want to do that? Actually, that would have been an okay move. I didn't want to do that because I wanted to set the trap. So I played here, blocking the queen, and he went here. I played king g7, and I was really, really hoping, okay, guys, I was like really hoping and thinking he was going to play queen to c3 check. And if he did, I was planning on playing the mind-boggling move. Actually, no, I'll let you guys figure out, what do you think I was going to play in this position? What move do you think I was going to play after this? This is not what happened in the game, by the way, but if it was, what do you think I was going to play? Well, the move I had in mind was rook 7 to e5. Boom, check. And the point here is that if he takes this, that's checkmate. That's just an amazing checkmate. So I was like, okay, he can't take it. So what's he going to do? Well, if he takes with the queen, I mean, I'm just winning a queen, right? So, okay, great. If he pushes this pawn, well, then I'm just still going there, checkmate. So what's he going to do? Only really move is to go here. And then I was planning on hitting him with g5 check. Okay, I saw this, and then I saw king to h3, captures. He's going to come down here, check. I'm going to block with my rook, He's going to take this pawn. This is what I thought. And then I'm going to play the move f3. Okay? And my idea was that I'm going to use this pawn to win the game. And Engine actually didn't even... Engine was saying it was a draw, and now it's realizing what's happening, I think. It's bouncing all around. Anyway, the point is, I thought that this was going to be a win for me. Now, I'm not entirely sure, but basically the point is to bring the rook here, line it up, and I don't really know how the queen's going to stop that, because I have 2 rooks that I can use. The issue is, can I get out of a perpetual check? So, computer is saying queen c6. Let's just see what happens if I go here. It's saying queen c3 check. Let's see, how do we stop that? Can I move my king somewhere? No, it's saying rook f6. Queen here. King h8. Yeah, I think the engine's confused. But anyway, this was my plan. I was going to try to figure out a way to get out of check and push this and somehow win the game. So let's go back. And so right here, okay, I played king g7. I was like, he's totally going to play this. I'm going to hit him with this amazing move. And he plays h3. He just plays h3. Like, he didn't even hardly think. He just played h3. And I'm like, this guy is seeing all of my tricks. Like, he's just seeing everything. And now the whole point of going here doesn't work because I can't go there. He just takes it. There's nothing. I got nothing now. And the other thing about this move is that I realize I can't move this rook anymore because he's going to take me here with this queen. Right? If I move anywhere, like let's say here, boom, the queen comes in and now I'm probably going to lose. So I'm like, okay, I can't move that rook. I can't really move this rook much. I can maybe move it there or move my king back and forth. So that's what we did. We just got a draw. And that is why chess is sad, because this idea doesn't work anymore and because my bishop on h3 didn't get captured. So that's how you find some cool tricks and just still not win the game. I don't know. I don't know what to say. I'll show you guys the report. So I'll show you guys the report. You can see we both played really good game, 91, 91.4. So, I mean, I think I played pretty well. I can't complain about much, except that I didn't get the win. So, but that's just how chess goes sometimes. So yeah, chess is sad. I'm going to go get some rest and get ready for tomorrow. Got 2 more games tomorrow, then my bye, and then the final round. So thank you guys for watching. Stay sharp, play smart, take care.